Welcome back to another episode of Sal and Pals Go to the Movies. This is another Throwback Thursday review, and today I will be reviewing Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid. And just a fair warning, there's going to be spoilers up ahead, so you've been warned. In Wyoming, early 1900s, Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid are leaders of the band of outlaws. After a train robbery goes wrong, they find themselves on the run with a posse hard on their heels. The solution is to escape to Bolivia. So let's begin with my first pro. The story itself is a retelling of a real story of Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid. Even though it takes a little comedic liberties, it remains somewhat truthful to what people know as a story behind the persona. You do have your robbery stories, but there is one element where you see them as just wanting to live their lives free. While it may be true that they were violent and bandits in the film, you do see the other side of the coin, and whether it's true or not, we do have a film that is interesting and fun to watch based on these two characters and their friendship. Next point, we have the cast: Paul Newman as Butch Cassidy, Robert Redford as the Sundance Kid, and then Catherine Ross as Etta Place. Also, some notable mentions are Cloris Leachman, who plays Agnes. People might remember her from Young Frankenstein and even Malcolm in the Middle as their grandmother. And talking about Malcolm in the Middle, we also have Kenneth Mars, who played the Marshal in this movie, but also came out in Malcolm in the Middle as Otto. Also, just a side note, we do have Sam Elliott as card player number 2 in this movie. He also began dating Catherine Ross in 1978 during the filming of The Legacy, and then after that they got married in 1984 and are still happily married. So these are the cast in this movie, which, as I said, they are really known actors nowadays, but back then some of them were up and coming. Next point, how the film began as a film strip reel, then moves into a sepia kind of film with gambling involved. It just shifts again into a shot of two characters riding on their horses, then turns into color, and then you add dialogue, and that's when humor comes in. I enjoyed these transitions and they felt really nice to watch. It kind of pulled me in and I kept watching and my eyes started opening to other vantage points in the film. Also, the film and how it feels as the sense of a vintage at some points, but then others not so vintage. For example, when Butch and Sundance are being tracked and they stop to look behind them to see if they're still being followed, the shot opens into a big scenery shot, but you notice it is just paused in one frame and just keeps lingering there. They do this quite often in the film, but then when we see the people tracking them riding with lanterns, then you actually notice that it's a real life shot and the people are actually moving towards camera. Also, in some other scenes when they are running away, the film is sped up, and once they get off screen and they come back into frame, the speed is reduced back to normal. That is quite funny when you see it and you catch this. Then you think to yourself, that's a smart way of speeding up the film so we won't have to linger too much on some scenes that basically would just take forever. Also, some old Western movies use the same tricks back in the old days. But yeah, some of these tricks do seem like they had to cut some corners, but at the same time, I still feel that it kind of gave this movie more of a vintage look, even though the tricks were known and you can actually spot them nowadays. But kudos to them for including those tricks in the movie. Next point is how they added some humor to the story, but that did not take away from the story bond that both characters had towards each other, but actually it made it even stronger, seeing them on the run, never leaving each other behind. And even when they were on the run with Etta, she never got in between them. She let them come and go as they pleased. And I would actually say the line of her saying that she has nothing going for her, she's 26, single, and a school teacher, and that is why she decides to follow them. She's going to be there to stitch them up, but she won't stay and watch them die. This is a really strong line midway through the movie, and also a bit of a foreshadowing for the end. But what makes it even more impactful is that right before they rob the Alpaca mine money transfer mule, Etta tells them that she's thinking of heading back home ahead of them, and they both agree. Here she is actually sad and we only see her face. The others are hiding their faces or not on screen. But what she does next is really strong. She does not beg them to come with her, but she feels that they are better off together, even if it means them knowing they are close to their death. They rather go out together than alone. But also, both characters don't want this end for Etta, so they allow her to go back alone. And then we see them meet their end as at the beginning of the film, talking about their next destination, but now instead of talking about Bolivia, it is now Australia. Still a bit of a humor in the air, but the situation they're in, it's a bit hairy. And now on to my cons. The biggest con I would say is the length of the film. It's an hour and 50 minutes. Sure, it is not that long, but there are some scenes that they could have cut out or taken out that are not really needed, and that would have made the film shorter, maybe an hour and a half, because some parts did drag on a bit, and I would have liked it if they would have taken that out and used that time to explain how they ran the hole in the wall gang, or added side stories of them getting into other sorts of trouble other than just robbing banks. Next con was they did not really clear up what happened to the other members of the gang once they were on the run. I would have liked it if they would have had read some newspapers here and there, and slowly they would have seen some of the members get caught or killed by Joe LaForce. This way they would have developed a hard reason for them to run off to Bolivia because they feared for their lives since Joe was after them. This would have driven the idea home that they are deadly afraid of Joe and what is coming after them. But nothing of the sort was developed, and the movie just kept on going. We just saw them on the run, and then all of a sudden they're off to Bolivia. So my grade for the movie is going to be an 8 out of 10. This movie does have action, friendship, humor, plus it does have some historical figures from the past that many still have debates about how they lived their lives or what tales are true and what tales are fake. But I enjoyed the film for how it was filmed and the sceneries that they portrayed, and also part of the story. Plus having it run through much of the character's life is a bonus, while at the same time not making more far-fetched ideas of the characters. But yeah, there are a few cons that one can live with and have this movie still be enjoyable. So that does it for this review of Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid. Please join us next time where we're going to review Mel Brooks' History of the World Part 1.
The Lord Jehovah has given unto you these 10 commandments for all to obey.
Please like, comment, and subscribe. You can find our social media links below. And like always, keep watching movies.